Alright, let's start off by looking at your stroke from the front and above, where our priority is looking at that hand entry. I talked a lot about that, getting the hand entry right, entering the hand in front of the shoulder like you do there. It's almost like we're on some train tracks, and avoiding crossing over from the head. Left arm, big crossover there. Right arm, better. A lot of splashing there, makes it a bit hard to see. We need to talk about that a little bit later. Trying to point these fingers a little bit more and spear them into the water rather than slap your wrist on the water. Left arm, big crossover there. Get a good shot here. So that left arm has entered. If you draw a line through your head, there's your center line, your hand is crossing across your center line of your body. We really need it to be out here in line with your shoulder. Okay. So what happens is that hand has to move from there and get back over there before you can pull yourself through the water. And we might see later that causes a little bit of funny thing with the elbow doing that correction, because you do have a nice elbow bend, but getting to that position is a little bit tricky. Okay, so now we're just going to look at the frontal view, and there's that hand in front of the head that we just saw from above. See how it's got to move outwards to get itself in the right position. Now that's a pretty good bend in the elbow there, if we look at the angle of that. About 130, which is pretty good. We're actually looking probably more for like 120, but that looks pretty good. One thing we might see from the side though, there is a little bit of the elbow is actually behind the hand, and that's because of this crossover. To get to that position, your elbow is getting behind your hand, so we really want those to be in a single plane. We'll see that better from the side. Right arm entering in front of the shoulder, right, but still bad habit here of reaching out way out there, but this is related to your head. You're probably lifting your head a little bit. If you try and keep that head down a bit longer, it'll avoid dropping this arm, so then your elbow's far too low before you start your catch, and the catch is very late. The catch is when you bend your wrist first before you bend your elbow to catch the water. I'm not seeing any catch there. So then you do a great job of getting back to that bent elbow position, but again, to go from there to there, you will see it from the side, but this wrist is out front of your elbow. We really need that in a plane. Really got to improve this left arm entry there. That's causing a lot of problems. And there, a bit of a late catch, I think. Again, the catch being cocking your wrist to grab the water before you start to pull. Right, so let's compare that to an ideal stroke. Just to give a bit of comparison. Alright, so this is the animation of the ideal stroke. Let's look at that now. Hand entering outside the shoulder or slightly in line with the shoulder, significantly wider than you, reaches out, starts the catch there. Elbow is high, little bend in the wrist there, starting to grab the water. Left arm out in front, entering right there in line with the shoulder if we compare that to yours. Look at that hand position. And also you can see, this is what I talked about before, this driving the fingertips into the water, spearing them in as opposed to slapping the water. You see your palms. So it's almost getting ready for this catch here. I think you'll find there at that midpoint here, nice bend in the elbow, and that would be in a plane as opposed to yours where you can kind of see it there. I think you're in that position, but your hand is still out front. And I think that's related to not getting the catch right. Let's look at the side now. There's your right arm. We know your right arm enters pretty well. Little bit of a catch there, little bend of the wrist to grab the water. I think the elbow's dropping a little bit. And there, that's what I talked about. This midpoint here, your elbow is lagging behind your wrist. And I think we saw how this stroke starts with a sweep out away from the body, and what you've done is you've wasted that time to get that elbow high, catch the water, and find yourself in a straight plane there. We'll look at a good animation later to show you what that should look like. Left arm crosses over, reaches out. Pretty late catch. Again, we see a bit of that lag there at the midpoint. We really want to see that in line with the body. Do want to see more catching of the water, probably about there. You want to be starting to really grab that water and bending the wrist. Not seeing any catch at all there. So you're pushing the water down, not pushing it backwards and pulling yourself forward until you get to about there. Right arm a little bit better, kind of catching there. Yeah, right arm's definitely better. Left arm losing a lot of propulsion there with that arm. So let's look at the side. Oops. That's better. So now we can compare your stroke to a really good stroke. When I say good stroke, I mean world class. Very few people can swim like this, but this just gives us the clues on what we really need to work towards having the ability to achieve. So I talked about catching the water here. You can see there's a nice high elbow. Elbow is bent in a concave, reaching over a barrel. You can see here this arm is still almost pointing out in front, and already you're starting to get some backwards propulsion from swim. And there, if we compare, this upper arm is at the same position, even probably back here. Already your hand is still got no backwards pull, and that's your right arm, which we know is better. So even if we look at your left arm there compared to this guy's left arm, look how he is still pointing out front and already catching. Good catch and pull. So hand out in front, already providing a lot of backwards propulsion. You are all the way down there before you even start to do that, losing a lot of power. So you really need to keep this elbow high. High elbow. And that's just a little bit of an overlay there, just showing that catch. That's that really early in the stroke, you really need to just bend that wrist to start catching the water, and that really sets you up to get yourself in this position, halfway through, and this is in a plane compared to halfway through, wrist right out in front. But I do think this starts right back here though. The problem getting to that position is because you waste a lot of time just pushing outwards. And I think part of the fix of that is just to get that nice early catch. No catch there. Catch starts there. Quite a late catch, as opposed to, you watch where this guy catches there. Still reaching right out in front, and straight away he's catching. Right, so lots to think about there. We'll just finish off with just some extra footage here of above. So just get a chance to watch your swimming. You can see that right arm moving outwards instead of just catching and pulling again there. So it's going from, whoops, there. Slapping the water too, really got to try and start bending the wrist here and spearing those fingers into the water. Slightly better there. Yeah, that shows a good shot of the hand is entering there. It's that left of that black line, and it moves across. Bit of camera angle, but it's definitely, we definitely know that happens. Very few swimmers wouldn't benefit by entering the water wider. You can almost see the effect of that crossover is having on your lower body. We draw a line through there. That does is moves your feet out that way. It's creating much more frontal drag. And now they move back in line. It's just a whole waste of energy, just overcoming the drag from those feet moving out there. And that starts up here out in front. Alright, I hope that's helpful.